Okay, shkoyach everyone for coming out tonight. Shkoyach Leah for drinking a Celsius. And want to dedicate tonight's learning. Tonight is the yard site of Meir Kahana, who was Shem Yikam Damam assassinated on November 5th, 1990, some 25 years ago. Zecher Kadesh Levracha. Tzaddik. Kadesh Levracha. Okay. Going weiter, we left off. We finished chapter 3 last week, and we're diving into chapter 4. I feel like it's been forever. It's been 1 week. Right. We talked briefly about just the mentality. Before we dive into the actual negative midos, there is the mentality of what a person carries themselves. We talked about how a person can be their biggest enemy, or they are their biggest enemy, right? What holds you back from progressing to be the best that you can be is yourself. And one of the roots of that, which leads directly into the midah we're going to talk about today, which is laziness, is that people are not used to demanding greatness from themselves. It's because they don't look at themselves as any sort of thing that's special. They look at themselves as stam, just regular Jews, not people who are capable of accomplishing much. That belief, that false belief in yourself and that mentality will then encourage all the negative midos that you have inside yourself to run rampant, to have water, little sunlight, little seedlings, and then they will grow within you and they will take you over, right? It's not just the negative character traits that you have inside yourself, because it's your agency that allows them to give life, right? If a person is lazy, they can shut that down right away. There's ways to do that. But if a person is programmed to think a certain way, or they allow certain beliefs to run rampant within them, then those negative midos are going to grow out of control. All right, let's dive into some practical shlemus over here on chapter 4. Machalas ha'atzlus, that the disease of laziness, the hisrapus, and being lethargic, lethargy. That is the difference between the two. Is laziness is something that is a physical disease, mechoila, and the other one is a being lethargic is sort of a spiritual laziness. So today we're only going to talk about the first one. We're going to talk how the two of them relate to each other. And again, what we said last week is that when a person is growth oriented, they are trying to pinpoint where these things exist inside themselves. It is a spectrum. It is not like you have it or you don't have it. Everybody has some degree of negative and positive midos inside themselves, and they just fall on a spectrum. You work on the things where you're very extreme on that spectrum, but you still have them inside yourself. You can't brush that off. We all have an element of lazy. Even if, someone over here is extremely big, go-getter, they're not late to anything. We all have it. We have to identify where it exists within us, and then we have to crush it, kill it, burn it. Like we do with the chametz. Yes, you cannot coexist with a cancer. It must be utterly destroyed, right? That's why we clean our house out of all the chametz, and that's why we need to expunge the Palestinian ideology out of the land of Israel. Okay. Only because we were talking about it before. So here we go. Page 89. Laziness is probably the most harmful and most widespread spiritual ailment amongst young people. Wow, look at that. Look in the mirror. Look who we are. Nice and young. However, no comments. However, like any other fault, it varies from one person to another. One youngster might be completely lazy. He likes to sleep a lot and do nothing, and any type of exertion is like a tsaris to him. So you have that person. He has excuses for everything. As the pasuk says, a lazy person will say that there's a lion in the street. Along the way, there's a lion in the street. Meaning that, and if you follow Shlomo Melech there in Mishlei, basically what he's saying is that a person who's lazy will come up with any reason in the world to not go and do what they need to do. I will liken that. I will liken that to, again, the doing what you got to do, right? A person who wants to sleep all day, they just want to be lazy. They don't want to get off the tuchus and do anything. So you see people, especially like this, right? When in high school, when it comes to doing the things that they need to do, everything is about cutting corners, the shortest way out. And it's not even that there's a disinterest in certain things. And when you go deeper, it's not disinterest, it's more just pure laziness, right? For example, a person that come on a Shabbaton, is there anyone, I mean, there's one, but outside of that one, is there anyone who could say that they didn't utterly enjoy Shabbos on TGJ? Of course they did. So we have a Shabbaton. Great. But not everybody comes. Why? Laziness. Simply laziness, right? Didn't sign up on time, this, that. I want to go out there to it or come out to programs during the week. It's mainly laziness. But it goes one step further because a person does not want to, it's like every time when you call up somebody, you're like, hey, we have this, we have something going on, we want you to come. They're not going to tell you outright, like, no, I just like it's too lazy to schlep out over there. And they're not going to do that because that's going to reflect poorly on their character. What are they going to say? They're going to say, oh no, I'm super busy. My mom, my homework, my dog, my iguana. There's always going to be something there that's going to be like, oh, that holds you back. And then you see the next line. He will forever be a tzaddik in his own eyes because he's full of excuses. Because it's not my fault why I can't come, right? All the time. I literally have this conversation, copy paste every year. Oh, we missed you on the Shabbaton. Really wish you were there. Yeah, I know. You see, my brother's sister, who's me, had a cousin once removed who came from Israel to Antarctica to Norwegia. Eh, fine. And then you're just like, okay. And it hurts me. I'm not going to call you out on it, but like, why can't you just be honest? I'm just like, listen, I'm lazy. I dropped the ball. I don't want to go. Yes, Rihanna. Saw you there.
How is that like physically? Like I think it's more like lethargy when someone doesn't come to a Shabbaton because it's not like let's say like everything's fine, like their parents let them, they can pay for it. All they have to do is like it's not if someone's not coming on Shabbaton, it's not I'm too lazy to pack my bag and get on the bus.
It could,
It's
it could, it could be both, but I will tell you firsthand, right? I've heard this. I live in Boca, right? Yo, you gotta come to Boca. Boca? Like, oh my, like, I don't know. I'd have to get a passport. And you're like, you live in Hollywood, bro. It's 25 minutes away. Relax. So far. No, it's laziness. I mean, listen, there's elements of it both. I think there's a little Yetzer Hara sprinkled in there. Yes, Chelly, because you're a go-getter. That's why. But yeah, no, what the Ish Kodesh's suggestion is that this is laziness, right? The efforts that it requires me to go and do the thing. And it's not so far-fetched. We have a Shabbaton coming up, right, for the Jewish Academy kids, and you're talking to them, and what do they say? They're just like, right, when you dig down deep to it, it's like, oh, but then I gotta pack. It's just easier to stay home. There is a lot of laziness behind, and again, it's a disgusting, terrible midah because it'll hold you back from accomplishing things in life. Nobody likes a lazy bum. I was having a conversation with someone, again, a senior person, and I was talking to them like, trying to encourage them to come and do something. And they're just like, no, why would I do that on the weekend when I could stay home and sleep all day? And I'm like thinking like you're gonna go out and like you're gonna get a job. Like who's gonna hire you? You're like the most unattractive candidate of all time. You're like you just reek of laziness. You never want to lift a finger. You never want to do anything. You're gonna lose many opportunities in life when you are just so lazy. It's hard and it's a struggle for sure. Um, sorry, just seeing that now. Yes, the lion in the road is not. He quotes Shlomo Melech and Mishlei, who uses that thing, saying that like, oh, I can't make it there because there's a lion in the road. You're gonna find, there's in life, there's excuses and there's obstacles. There's no difference between the two. It's just based on how you look at it. An obstacle is something that is a challenge in front of you that you need to navigate a way to find yourself over and find a way through. An excuse is something that you don't want to get through. You don't want to get there. So you're leveraging the excuse in order to get yourself off the hook. And people are very creative about this stuff, right? Anything to not take responsibility, right? There's always a reason. It's too expensive. It's too far.
oh,
My parents don't let. Yeah.
can you repeat that one more time? Like the sorry, that's like a lot to repeat, but like the part that you said about how like excuses and obstacles are the same thing or something.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this. And it's very hard because there's an added layer for me. When I work as a recruiter, right? I recruit people to programs all the time. I recruit for summer, I recruit for Shabbatons. It's one of the elements of what I do is to recruit. When you're having conversations with people, right? They are bringing up certain things. And the hard thing for me sometimes is to navigate the difference between an excuse and an obstacle. If you define those two things, right? What is an excuse and an obstacle in someone's um yeah, right. What is the definition of those things? Like my parents don't let me. Is that an excuse or is that an obstacle? because the subject matter is the exact same thing. But whether or not that's an excuse or an obstacle is really depending on what you want. It depends on your perspective, right? I don't want to go and I want my way out of it. So I'm gonna scapegoat my parents and make them the bad guys because who's really gonna check? And by the way, I do sometimes when I'm on to that. Like sometimes I reach out directly to the parents and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know there was a Shabbaton this weekend. That'd be so lovely if they go," you know? And it's just like called out. The added layer for me, which is really hard, is that kids don't want to be, forthcoming. They are so petrified of being a disappointment and letting someone down. And again, that's where I believe that they're coming from. I don't think kids who lie to me, which happens very often, is because they're lying to me and they're liars. I think it's coming from a place of they don't want to let down, they don't want to disappoint. They're trying to avoid conflict to some degree, right? So it's like, hey, I would really love for you to come to this thing. They're going to come up with something. Now it's hard for me because I now have to decipher because if it's an obstacle, then I am there for you. I'm going to figure out, okay, let's come up with creative solutions. How are we going to raise the money? How are we going to speak to that person? How are we going to whatever? And then I find myself sometimes in a position where I'm fighting for somebody who doesn't want the thing I'm fighting for. But why am I fighting for them? Because they told me that there's an obstacle. But really, it's an excuse. If they would not scapegoat their parents and blame it on the finances and just say, quite simple, like, I don't want to go, and this is why. Just be straight out. You're going to save me so much time. Why? Because they go like, oh yeah, I don't have a ride. So now I'm on the phone calling people for rides, and like you didn't even want to go in the first place. So like now, what am I doing all this for? I'm trying to help you, but you misrepresented, right? You presented an obstacle when in reality it was an excuse. Whatever. Side tangent. You can go to the podcast for that stuff. But yeah, that's what it is. A person who is lazy is going to create excuses constantly to get themselves off the hook from doing the things that they need to do. He will always find fault with those who work on themselves and are greater than he in order to justify his own lack of effort. He feels no shame, nor does any of their envy their efforts. Now let's talk about it from a character development standpoint. I know that being lethargic is a spiritual matter, a spiritual laziness, but laziness physically, because if a person wants to grow, they have to physically do things, right? Person wants to grow, they need to get up, they need to start getting active. They got to go, you got to go to shul, you got to go to school, you got to go show up to your chavrusa, whatever it is that they have to do certain things. And a person doesn't want to do those things, right? Because if they're lazy at the end of the day, so what do? They'll start to obviously compare themselves to other people. What they'll do is they'll find faults in other people to justify why they're greater, right? They'll look at the person after the summer who worked really hard and they'll say, yeah, it's great that they did that, but right, they don't have the same circumstances that I do, and they don't, whatever, to make themselves feel better. They'll figure out a way to be able to set up their life where they never have to do anything or have any accountability for it. And even if he does occasionally decide to reform and exert himself, he tires out very quickly. Why? Because he's a lazy bum. If you identify that you're a lazy bum and you struggle with this plague, you have to figure out a way to expunge it from your life. He manages to learn well for a mere week or two at the beginning of the summer's month, and that's it. If you, God forbid, have this terrible meter within you, please uproot it quickly. Eradicate it from its core. It is repulsive and shameful, and it rots and destroys everything. Couldn't have said it better myself. Very intense language, but yeah, that's what it is. Why? Because laziness holds a person back from progress. Laziness holds a person back from opportunity. And our life is really a compilation of taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves, whether it's Hashem's opportunity, like a mitzvah, right? Zrizim la'akdim mitzvahs, our antidote to laziness is to act within haste and fast. Or if it's one of Hashem's shliach, a human being offers you an opportunity, right? And that you miss it and that door closes. You had that opportunity to do that and you were lazy. You missed it. The Shabbaton's full. It can't come no more. And that Shabbaton could have changed your life, whatever it is that if a person has this lazy work ethic, excuse me, then they're not going to take advantage of opportunities presented to them and they'll inevitably fall, short of their potential, which again is sad because YOLO, right? Those of you who are lazy, please tell me. Oh, I love this example. Why are you better than the whole world? I love it. Love it. I used to do this a lot on Teacher J, but I totally like when thank God we had a pretty good summer in this regard. But like the kids would like come consistently late every single day. It was always my line. I'd sit down with them and like start off with that. Like, can I just ask you a question? Like, why do you think you're better than everyone else? And they get so offended. They're just like, me? And you're like, yeah, you. Why do you think you're better than everyone else? And they're like, I no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. And I say, well, everyone was down here, right? Well, everyone was down here at 7 o'clock a.m. Every single person. We're all sitting around waiting for you. So I'm just curious, like, you obviously feel like you don't have to be here at 7. You have special privileges. So why do you think you're better than everybody else? Yeah. Yeah, usually, yeah, doesn't work, but I enjoy it. So he says like this: the sun, the moon do their jobs without ever taking a break. If you think about it, right? Hashem created this world, every single thing is Eved Hashem, the sun rising every single morning because Hashem told it to. It doesn't slack. The earth is plowed, harrowed, and seed, and it turns and it gives its strength and its vigor to the produce which Hashem commanded it to yield. Oxen and horses and other animals work with all their strength. It is only those harmful creatures and predatory animals that idle their days away, desiring only to prey upon and devour each other. It's so interesting when he talks about these 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 hunters, like these type of animals that literally sleep 23 hours a day. Honestly, even like the lion, like we learn a lot from them, but like also like then they just look to devour others. Why should you be idle like them? Right? As in, and it's even worse. We say that like if everyone else on planet Earth that Hashem created, not other people, every other species does their job every day the way that they were designed to do, why aren't you doing your job? You know? Like a rock's job is to sit there and he does it every day and does a great job. And if it's doing it every single day, why are you not doing what you're being asked of? Look, even Chazal spurred themselves on and took advantage of the opportunity to learn lessons from the world around them, despite all the great work that they did in Mesiras Nefesh. Rabbi Eliezer was always the first to reach the base medrash and the last to leave. Nevertheless, once he saw that those who took out the manure and the fodder in the field hands were up before he was immediately chastised himself and said, they arrived so early in the morning for their manure jobs, and I, who was involved in Hashem's holy work, how could I be late today? I love that. He musters himself because he sees a guy who schleps poop for a living, and he wakes up and he sees this guy's already up and at it and working already. And he says to himself, my God, like if that's this guy is rising early for poop and I'm rising early for the Abishter, right? First of the day, yeah, that's right. It's all about the dance floor. Um, how much more so? By the way, it's interesting. Like I had a in high school, I was my sleep hours were insane. My senior year working in the movie theater, I would go to sleep at 4 a.m. and wake up at like 3 p.m. Like that was the idea of waking up. I still don't like doing it. Of waking up before the sun is up. I'm preaching to the choir. You guys all go to school, so you guys are up early. When I started adulting and I started waking up early, it was like I can't believe on the way. You go on the highway at 5:45 a.m. and there's tons of cars there. It's like crazy that people are like getting up and stuff like that. You feel better ultimately, The hallmark of a successful person is someone who's up early. There is no successful person on planet Earth that wakes up after 9 a.m. Probably 8 a.m. Like this just doesn't exist because that's not what successful people do. They rise early and they get it. They get at it. Get your din. Indeed, take a good look at yourself. The construction workers work with full dedication all day long on top of their privileged tall buildings. The farmers sweat outside in the field. And how about your own father? How much effort and toil did he expend providing a livelihood for you as well? Everyone works. Some work use their mental energies while others their physical capabilities, but all of them work themselves to the bone. And you're walking around all day doing nothing? Boom. Why should the heavens and the earth curse you by saying, look, we and our offspring are all performing our duties as Hashem, our God, our master commanded us and created us. We're all working while this lazy youngster lords himself over by wasting his time, right? Like Hashem's world looking like, what is wrong with you? But even if you personally haven't been stricken with this terrible disease of laziness and your body and your soul hasn't been contaminated with the germ of idleness, you're still not allowed to absolve of the need to seek and cleanse yourself from the lesser form of laziness, which is lethargy. Even if it is not quite as dangerous as laziness, still, if he takes hold of a person, it can prevent him from realizing his potential. It can stand in the way of him following his path that leads to Hashem. Please remember that the Torah was given from heaven, and to be a Jew who learns Torah and to serve Hashem means spiritually ascending to a connection with God himself. The only way to reach this goal is through work, determination, and maximum utilization of one's emotional and physical capabilities. He just mapped out pretty much what growth looks like to you, right? Hard work, determination, and maximum utilization of one's emotional and physical capabilities that Hashem gave you. That's how we are supposed to operate. That's how we're supposed to work. So now he introduces this other element. Again, laziness is really from the physical side. I don't want to get off the chair. I don't want to get up and do my thing, right? Ugh, I'm so lazy. If you think about it, by the way, on a much lower level, like on like basic mitzvahs, when people ask you for like small things, like, do you mind getting that for me? We say no. When people, right, like there's an opportunity, um, your mom comes home and says, "Hey, can you get that for me?" And you're just like, "Ugh, like who could I delegate the task to?" I don't want to do that. Person has to condition themselves to not be lazy because again, laziness is a terrible disease that will just rot you from the inside. So a person has to get themselves useful to getting up. And by the way, you can practice doing that. You can practice being able to volunteer to do certain things. I remember we were in Universal Studios a few years back, and there was an advisor named Yosef Trop. I don't think he's with us anymore. But I remember we were standing at like in the middle of the park, and someone came, whatever they came late, and they called us, and they're like, oh yeah, they're by the front entrance, and they need a ticket, and the tickets were in. I mean, he's not an advisor anymore. What do you always get caught up on that? I keep doing whatever. Um, he is no longer an advisor. He's alive and well, Baruch Hashem. So they they're like, okay, we have the ticket. Like, who wants to bring it back to the gate? And this guy, every single person there was just like collectively like, no one wants to do this, but no one wants to be looked at as like the guy that's like, oh, you're not good enough of a guy to go run back to like get, you know what I mean? But this guy grabbed the ticket, besimcha, like so happy, and just took off running. And we're like, whoa, that's kind of crazy, Like again, we're not all gonna hit that level. When you have opportunities to not be lazy, right? Or if for example, even this, I would say like this, if you're doing something, I'm like speaking to myself, where someone asks you to do something and you're doing it half like I sit on my chair by the like in the kitchen, if you know my like where my seat is. And like they're like Morty asked for ketchup, and I just like so I reach over and I'm like opening the fridge door with this, and I'm trying to like, and I'm fully gonna knock over the whole. Everything's gonna come down, like simply because I just didn't want to get up. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't want to get up and get the freaking ketchup. Get up and get the ketchup. When you catch yourself not doing something, and the only reason you're not doing it is because you're being lazy, that's an indicator that you got to get up and you got to get it done. You got to go do the thing, right? Because that right there, that's you fighting against your laziness. And you cannot allow it to have a foothold into your life. So what does it mean to be lethargic? Lethargic is very well, what he's going to describe in a moment, but it's a spiritual laziness. It means you're doing, yeah, but what's so hard?
Like fighting against your laziness.
I find that knowing that you're in the battle is very helpful. That's why I said like to identify that it is laziness, right? Because a lot of times you're being lazy and you don't know you're being lazy, or you don't know that's why you're not doing it. You know what I mean? Would you ever get that moment where you're just like, oh, I'm being lazy, I should just do the thing? By the way, this is for parenting, like this is a constant daily occurrence for me. The way that I'm with my kids at the end of the day doing the bathroom bed, like the bed bath dinner routine, right? Like it's so easy, just like, oh, you're being lazy. Like, just do it like this way, like trying to, because you're exhausted. You know what I mean? But if you're not noticing that it's happening, then you can't, again, like I said last week, you can't be victorious over an enemy you can't define. If you recognize that I'm doing or not doing this thing because of laziness, I find that to be very helpful because now you're in it. Now you're locked in. You're in a battle versus like thinking about it later, be like, oh, shouldn't have been so lazy. So yes, it's so hard, but I personally think that that's a great way to start. Personally. Okay. Ugh. Yup. One of those evenings. The amount of effort expended in acquiring something is proportionate to the worth in which it's being acquired. Who recognizes that sentence and what that means? Anybody?
Can you repeat it one more time?
The amount of effort expended in acquiring something is proportionate to the worth of that which is being acquired. Anybody?
Like the line you guys always say in TGJ, I forgot the exact line, but it's like that like the hard things, like it's worth it because it's hard. Like
It's
I don't know how you say it, but yeah,
Hey
that.
Hey Omer at the end of the fifth parak in Pirkei Avos. Lefum
Duh.
ah,
My bad.
the amount of effort is the amount of reward. And what does that mean? The amount of effort is the amount of the reward. And again, God judges an effort because the effort is going to be what's the reward? The reward is you. The reward is the better version of yourself. If you're expending that much effort, then when you are successful, you are gaining that much in terms of the new, better, and improved yourself, which is really cool, right? But you have to, if something is this great, it demands and requires that much effort for it. You'll not find anything in life that is tremendous that's going to require minimal effort. I'll use an example. Let's say a person wants to make a lot of money. They really want to make a lot of money. There is no such thing as a get rich quick scheme. It doesn't exist, right? If a person wants to become very wealthy, they're going to have to put in that amount of effort to get to that place. People get themselves in trouble by trying to cut corners like that. Right? They try to, oh, there's a get rich quick scheme, or this is something I could gamble about, or I could whatever. And then they end up putting themselves in a hole. And that's why cash advance is a great industry, right? I need to make a massive loan and I'll pay you 60% in interest, right? Because the guy's desperate because they're just chasing this get rich quick scheme. They're not wanting to work hard for their stuff. So that's what that is. The Fumsara Agra, the amount of effort put in is the amount of reward. For example, wow. Objects that are inexpensive and relatively meaningless can be acquired with almost effortlessly, while more expensive items require a greater degree of exertion. Now, by the way, before we even go further, what does that tell you about a relationship with Hashem and a successful future? That you want to be the best version of you. What does that tell you? It tells you that growth is the hardest thing that Hashem ever will put in your life. Obviously, right? If that is the pinnacle of it all, to have a relationship with Hashem, to have a successful life and family with Shalom Bayis and have a good career, all that stuff, right? This is the greatest thing we can accomplish, and therefore it does require the most effort. And like you said, Danielle, yeah, it's so hard. Of course, there are things that are way easier, right? Like doing well in school, way easier than working on yourself. Yeah.
Not really.
Not really what?
Like school's not like I don't really
Agreed,
care enough
Shelly.
about like I don't really care that much about studying one of
School is harder than working on yourself.
It's
like
so much easier for me to like go on a shiur and like hear you like muster all of us than to go and do my homework. I
That's
have
not that's
five
not
zeros in my
that's
math homework
that's
thingy, but
not
I can.
like
Okay.
right.
my lazy self is telling me that like school is not like as productive as listening to a shear, but like I also know that like I have to do both, so whatever.
I don't know who told you that listening to a shear is working on yourself.
No, I would
It
rather
Because of it, I'm
it
like,
isn't, but it's like helping me like think about things that I need to work on. So
Yeah, that's great, but
I
the
don't know.
actual work itself, looking in the mirror, identifying your negative faults, and actually uprooting them,
How am I supposed
so
to know
much
yeah,
any
more.
of
we
that if I
can
don't listen to a shear and then I
No,
go
I,
out
I'm
and I
not,
do
I'm
that?
not, I'm not, I'm not bashing the shear.
that's
Of course,
literally what I do in
everyone
school.
get off this shiur and go look
but
in the
that's
mirror.
not,
Okay,
no,
bye.
that's not working on
I'm gonna
yourself.
go do homework.
Shelly, really, if we were to sit down and have real talk and talk about the things that hold you back from your own potential, you're telling me that conquering those things are easier than showing up to school every day?
I'd rather have
Yes.
that conversation with you than do my five missing math homeworks.
Okay, I could have that conversation with each and every one of you. Just spoiler alert, you'll all be crying.
I'd rather get clocked
I
and be
think you'll be
crying than do
crying
my math
before.
No,
homework.
not a
No,
good
I'm not
cry, like a
saying
realization cry, like, oh my God,
we're
I have so much to work on. Oh,
wait,
But it's like a
we're not
good.
right.
It's
saying
like
that.
it is a good
It's
cry because it's like
extremely hard to work on yourself, way more than
Yeah,
showing up and checking boxes.
You're
yeah, that's
right.
true.
You
I
know
think
what?
I
You
think
are
what
right.
There you go.
I think what we're trying to say is that it's not that it's
Why's she whispering?
easier because I'm in a house of sleeping people.
Oh, gotcha.
valid.
Start yelling, mommy.
um,
What were you saying?
um, it's it's not easier to work on ourselves, but it's just something that we would rather do than school. Like we would rather put more effort into
Yeah,
working on ourselves than doing
sure, for
schoolwork.
sure.
That's
No,
what I meant to
that's
say.
Ding
I
ding
agree.
ding. She
I agree
hit the
with you
buzzer.
100%, and I'm with you on that. I hate school. I think it's caca. That's fine. I'm talking
We
about the
know.
actual, you guys are motivated to work on yourself, so that's the beauty in that. But to say that the actual avoda itself is easier, no way. No way. Looking in the mirror, that is right then and there is the hardest thing to do. So, but I get what you're saying. That's in terms of interest. You guys are growth oriented people, so you love to grow. I love to grow. It doesn't mean that I'm good at it, you know? It's very hard. It's very, very hard stuff, you know? But Hashem should give us strength. It follows then that learning Torah and dwelling in Hashem's holy presence can only be acquired through tremendous amount of work. Wow, it's almost as if I learned this before. That's what he's saying. He's saying that to acquire your potential and be in the good graces of Hashem with and developing yourself into being a yid, it requires a tremendous amount of work, and that makes sense because that is within proportion to what it's worth. Right? If that's our purpose for being here, then obviously that quest is going to be the biggest and most intense. This work, however, is not beyond a human being's capabilities. Why? Because Hashem does not give you things that you can't handle. Just does not. Doesn't give you things you can't handle, and therefore everyone is capable of being able to accomplish big things. Hashem Yisbarach didn't entrust us with a task that is beyond our strengths and abilities, because then, and I had this conversation with, I mean, you guys know my perush on God doesn't give you anything you can't handle, right? Like I say it all the time, what that means and the misconception. Yes. Okay, good. Someone came over to me after La Casa when I spoke, and this was a point of disagreement. They did not believe this to be true. And I said to them like this: everything we know about Hashem is that Hashem is, yeah, he's Rachon v'Chanun and Erchapayim, Rav Chesed v'Emes. He's a gracious and merciful God, and he's a good God. The God that we believe in is a good God. If a person believes that God is evil, then they got things to work out. Would a good God do two things? Number one, put something into somebody that was impossible for them to be able to handle. It'd be crazy cruelty, like crazy cruelty. I also don't agree with that shear. What shear? The one I gave?
Not to cheat on you and your share, but rabbi another rabbi that whatever, he gives like an exit like of what you're saying, he gives an example that like Hashem didn't create like he didn't create a fish that's allergic, like he didn't make the species of like fish allergic to water, like because that would be cruel, like he made like that would be unjust, that like the very thing they need to survive is what like harms them in the same way, like for he said like animals like whatever, because like for humans, like you can't say like something. I don't know. People try proving wrong, whatever. But like same way by us, like Hashem didn't give us any like challenge or something like that. Yeah, we're not gonna like survive. You know.
Even more so, even in terms of the task. Think about it, right? We're supposed to be of the Hashem. Hashem, we're servants of God. We're here to serve Him. So if God puts us on the, can you imagine, right? If we're His loyal, trusted servants that He loves, can you imagine He puts us here and says, "I have a mission for you," and the mission's a suicide mission? It's a mission that you'll never be able to be successful. That's total cruelty. And I said to the girl there after La Casa, I said, I don't like everything I believe about God is that He's good and just, and a good and just God does not was what in English? A good and just God does not give someone, like imagine doing that to your child, giving them a task that you know that they can't accomplish. Hey, yeah, you can have dessert if you reach this thing and then you put it up higher than they can jump. Like it's horrible, right? Was God really going to do that to us? Is God going to give us a mission and a purpose that we are totally incapable of achieving? No, I cannot believe that my Hashem will do such a thing. I don't believe that. I don't believe a good job is going to make it cruel, right? It's so that's how I look at it. That God gave you these tasks. Obviously, you're capable of accomplishing it. What was not English? What I said?
No, Rihanna.
Yeah,
The
Rihanna,
thing
what was that?
Well, you
that
just
do you
you
get what I'm saying? Can you say it in English?
I don't
smile and you nod at
understand
her.
the fish thing.
That Hashem wouldn't make a fish like he wouldn't make a fish that's allergic to water because that would be cruel. Because the fish is if the fish is like it needs the
She's
water
saying
to
to
survive.
have you to bring you to this world with no way, shape, or form for you to be successful in the mission why you were brought here. That's cruel. That's Hashem doesn't do those things. Now, I do want to make one amendment because you could think of examples where you're like, okay, but like what about special needs people? What about people who are missing limbs? And what about like and here's also where you have to get tricky. You have to remember that what what we define success is not always what Hashem defines success as. Right? Sometimes we think like, oh, I failed this particular thing. When Hashem has said, no, no, you were actually very successful because the goal was to fail. The goal was for you to go through that experience and not reach your thing. So it wasn't that you failed, you actually succeeded, but you just have a different definition. You identified that challenge as that I needed to get here. Hashem's like, no, 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 no. I gave you that challenge because I needed to get here. I gave you something that you were not capable of doing, but the goal wasn't to be capable of doing that thing. The test was to fail so that you can end up here. You know what I mean? So that's the caveat. If you want to bring individual examples, that a special needs person, they have no seichel, they have no ability. Why are they here? Why do children pass away? At very young ages. That there are certain things, missions that you're here to accomplish. You're supposed to be here for X amount of time, and I will give you the tools that you need. When someone says like the guy was born with no arms, it's so sad he can never put on tefillin. What's the answer? The answer is that putting on tefillin has nothing to do with his purpose of why he's being here. How do I know? Because if it was, he'd have arms. Same thing with women. Like girls, like, oh my God, I'm never gonna put on tefillin. It's like, yes, because Hashem doesn't need you to. That's nothing to do with your purpose. That's not your mission here, right? If it was, he'd command you to do it. So that's how it works. Hashem is going to put a person there, they're going to set them up, and they're going to, right? So everything in your life, and this is why suicide is so horrible, because you're playing God. You're taking yourself out of the game when Hashem is saying, no, I put you here, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I gave you the skills and the tool sets and the resources, and I know that you're capable of being successful. Because what parent would put what parent would put their kid in a situation to fail? What king would put his servant into a position where he was going to totally fail? Yes, no, I get most of my examples from Hillel, so thank you so much for all that. We simply
Of course.
well, we simply need to apply ourselves and put in the necessary effort so that we won't be people who serve Hashem only when a mitzvah happens their way. Rather, we'll become constant servants of Hashem without slacking off or becoming casual in our mission. As Shlomo Melech said, okay, we'll do two more paragraphs and then we'll stop. Shlomo Melech said, one who slacks off in his work is also a brother to the master of destruction. A lazy person has absolutely no desire to work, and he is the master of destruction. One who's lethargic, however, functions when there is some function to be accomplished, but essentially is not an achiever. He sleeps on the job, drags it out unnecessarily, and is interested in only accomplishing things superficially and invests neither effort nor thoughtlessness to what he does. Now, I have a little bit of a hard time classifying that laziness is so much worse than being lethargic because, you when you meet a lethargic person, they show up, they get the things done, but there's no movement. It's someone that like is perfectly fine with like working as a cashier their whole life. It's like, okay, listen, they show up for work every day and they work at Publix, but like they have no aspirations for anything more. They're just I like this example. When I heard it and I share it very often. So you might have heard it before, but I think I heard it. I heard it from Rabbi Goldberg to give credit.
Wait, question. You said laziness is worse than lethargic, or lethargic is worse than laziness?
He's saying that laziness is worse than lethargic. He's calling being lethargic the brother of the master of destruction. But the master of destruction is being lazy. Like, that's how he's saying it. Right? Because if you physically don't get off the couch, fine. And I'll tell you personally why I think being lethargic is actually worse and more scary. After this example, I heard this from Rabbi Goldberg. He said like this. He said there's a guy who was working in a company, whatever it was, and he never got a promotion. He's been at the company for 20 years. Some other guy comes in, right? A year 15. This other guy comes in after 5 years, right? It's year 20. After 5 years, this guy gets a promotion, goes higher than the guy who's been there for 20 years. Guy's angry, storms into his boss's office, and he said, "Are you crazy? Are you kidding?" He said, "I've been here working for 20 years and I didn't get a promotion. And this guy's been here for 5 years and he gets a promotion." He goes, "No, no, no." He says, "You're mistaken. You've been here working for 1 year 20 times. That person has been working here for 5 years." meaning that like you're doing the things you need to do, but you're not progressing. You're not actually doing anything. It's just some examples in Yiddishkeit. You show up to shul. I daven 3 times a day, and I'm just reading the words in the siddur. Are you really davening? No, I'm just checking the box, right? There's no kavana, there's no emotional energy or effort put into it. I'm going through the motions. I'm checking the boxes. Okay, great. You can technically do that, but you're not taking your heart and putting it on the table when you roll the dice. You know what I mean? Yeah, Rihanna.
I thought like lethargy was like somebody knows like the truth or like they know like whatever, but they don't like go after. Like, can you define kind of more what it is? Because I don't know.
It's a spiritual laziness. It's somebody who physically shows up
But they are showing.
but
I thought
doesn't.
it was like they don't
It's a
like.
lack of effort. It's a lack of effort, right? It's like when you come around for a meeting and you're like, whatever. And there's one person who just goes, they do the bare minimum. They do it, but
Bare
they're just
minimum.
right. They have no energy or drive. They're just spiritually and emotionally lazy. Now I'll tell you, it's very interesting, right? I'll another example. We don't have it as much today, but there used to be, we called it the front row main eventer in NCSY. Like the kid who would sit in the front row of the main event, and like it's been 3 years in NCSY, and they are the exact same person in their practice and then whatever as they were from before. No, whatever. But they're in the front row. I can complain about the guys in the front row. It's the person who goes to seminary and they go to all my classes. I go to all my classes. And you come back and you're the exact same person you were before you left. But I went to all my classes on TJJ. Think about on TJJ, somebody who shows up every single morning, checks in on time. We have kids like this. They check in on time every single morning. They are never late. They are participating in every single thing they need to do. Physically, participation. They come out of the summer, it was nice. No, nothing. Because they are so lethargic. They're so spiritually lazy. It requires a little bit. It's like the guy who cops out at the oneg, right? It's just schlepping your feet. You're checking boxes. You're doing your thing, showing up to davening. You're reading from the siddur, right? That's what it is. And the reason why I personally think it's scarier and worse is what I call the drug effect. I don't know. I used to give a share where I would like try to trigger people. I would say that marijuana is worse than heroin.
Try to trigger people.
Yeah, I'm like smoking pot is the worst drug you can possibly do. It's worse than cocaine. It's worse than heroin.
I
And
don't know the difference between any.
aw, T4. So nice.
Sorry. I'll go do my research next
Little little
time.
little humble brag out there, huh?
Rihanna, we were literally in the same psychology class.
I didn't know that. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I know my drugs. I'm sorry. Keep
Yeah,
going.
don't you ever embarrass me again like that. Okay, so basically, so I say this. So it's very tricky. So people want to come to the share. They want to hear about that, right? And stuff like, how can you say such a thing? And my whole argument essentially is, and I've been around, I've watched enough people destroy their lives with drugs. So, we have our fair share of overdoses, and then we have a fair share of potheads. The thing about potheads is that they cannot do anything in life without being high. It's like, oh my God, we're going out to dinner. Quickly, I gotta go hit. Oh, we're going out to a movie. I can't do anything without being baked off my tuchus. So I say like this, because I've watched, believe it or not, I've watched marijuana destroy more people's lives than heavy drugs. I'll tell you why. I feel like to what do you mean? I grew up in Buch, Arkansas on Main Street, the city.
Who are you going to school with? How do you know potheads?
Do you know where I'm from? Like, do you
He
know
was one. I'm kidding.
I was
I
not?
thought you were from.
How did you extrapolate that from what I said? Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Rihanna, you go
Rihanna.
to Hillel. Do I need to explain to you that high school kids do drugs? Is that like a finished?
Keep going.
Like, come on. Anyway, so like this, my whole argument is that when someone's smoking pot all the time, they can function. When you're high, you can show up to work, show up to class, you can get all your work done and do everything you need to do. And that in their mind creates a false sense of like, oh my God, well, if I'm meeting all my responsibilities, then I'm all Gucci, right? Perfect. But if someone your age wanted to get involved and started shooting up heroin, right? Or they were taking acid or psychedelics, shrooms, whatever, snorting cocaine, smoking crack, hitting the bath salt, okay, whatever. The I got a little carried away there.
Are we
Someone,
done?
someone is going to intervene. Someone is going to notice that your body is physically deteriorating and they're going to intercept you. They're going to have an intervention. You're going to start having really serious side effects and red flags will be raining from the himmels. So someone is going to interject and make that stop. But if you're smoking pot and you're functioning, you're showing up every day and you're doing your work, who's paying attention to you? Are we paying attention to the kid falling through the cracks, slipping through the radar on TJJ because they're showing up to everything and they're being on time and they check in with their advisor? That's why being lethargic is so dangerous and being lazy. You know why? Because if you decided one day you're like, yeah, I'm too lazy, I'm not going to go to school, your parents would beat you with the chancleta. You can't not go to school. Get up, get out of bed, go do your thing, right? You don't show up to class all week. People are going to notice and someone is going to intervene. But if you're showing up every day, literally, you're checking the boxes, you're doing what you got to do, is anyone going to sound the alarm? No, and you're wasting your life. It's the same thing with like davening and tefillah. Person shows up 3 times a day, or they go and they learn Torah, right? So it could be a guy in Kola who just sits there and learns all day. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't believe in God even. He's doing his thing, right? No one is going to raise an alarm for somebody who's doing this. So that's why if a person's lazy, they're going to destroy their life. But I think that like somebody will kick their butt and get them up into shape. You can't sit home and watch YouTube and Netflix and TikTok all day. You just can't do that. It's not what a normal person does.
What do you think about the line fake it till you make it?
So fake it till you make it is a strategy. For example, in the Gemara Pesachim, it talks about it as well. Is that if a person wants to feel, the kedusha of Shabbos, start keeping Shabbos, right? Do the action, and then eventually the inspiration will come. The difference is that you're faking it till you make it is a strategy because you want to make it. A lethargic person does not want to make it. So it's why they're doing it in the first place, right? So for example, if you want to smile at people, you want it to become like you want to just become a somebody who just smiles more often at people. So you have to fake it till you make it, right? You have to start every day, just like okay, smile. You're seeing someone just and keep doing it over and over and over. And then after a few months, what? Because the goal from the onset, I'm using fake it or make it strategy to get to where I want to be. That's not a lethargic person. A lethargic person has no aspirations to make anything, let alone make it. They're not doing the things. They're showing up and they're checking boxes. I show up to school every day. I do my work. I get by. I'm going to live an average, boring life. And that's no bueno, right? So that's why I just think that if a person's lethargic, nobody's going to notice. Maybe they won't care. You just be who you are. And I feel that way about certain kids. I'm just like, what's going to be with you? Like you have like such crazy apathy. Be so apathetic, literally indifferent. Apathy is a lethargic disease. But you show up to everything. You're getting good grades. So you're not gonna sit the person down and feel like I feel like you're not trying hard enough. How are you gonna ridicule a person for their effort? That's why it gets very, very scary with that. One who's lethargic, he sleeps on the job, drives out necessarily. Okay. A conscientious person, however, is one whose essence is that of an achiever. By the way, and I think this is so true, to me, there is nothing more unattractive, literally unattractive, than a person who has no aspirations. I was thinking about this for myself. I was like, who do you want your kids to marry? I want them to be with someone who has aspirations. If someone says, even if they have a fancy job, like, yeah, I work as an accountant and I'm happy. I like it. Sure. Versus like, no, I want to conquer the freaking world. I want to be this and that. Somebody has aspirations, somebody who's an achiever, because then you're looking for opportunity around you to be able to take advantage of it. It's a very attractive midah. Someone who's a go-getter versus someone who's like, no, I'm totally fine doing just checking boxes. Aspirations mean aspire, means that they're longing for something. They have drive for the future. They're a visionary. That's what it is. They have
Does it
aspirations. I want to accomplish things.
does it matter like what that is? Because I've like heard people like tell people like, oh, you want to be like a mom and like so and so, you have no aspiration, but
Yeah,
like
no, no. The subject matter, that's someone who's
yeah,
totally
like it,
shallow and materialistic and aspiration, the subject matter could be whatever it is, right? Someone could be like, I want to be a pro athlete. There's no intrinsic value in being a pro athlete. I mean, it's great. You make a lot of money and you play sports, but like, you're not doing anything for anyone. Like, there's nothing like noble about that. So if I live in a currency in America where it's shallow, where like your worth is determined by your career, then yes, having aspirations to be the best mom in the world, first of all, being the best mom in the world is probably harder than most careers. I just sound like Oprah right there. It's a beautiful moment. And if you check under your seat, you'll find keys to a brand new Jaguar. So
Hey.
they're ridiculing the subject matter. But aspirations means that I'm not just doing what I'm doing. Like, find these people, I was like, what do you want to do with your time? I don't know. How can I make the clock move faster to my death? Versus aspirations is like, no, I'm chasing something. I want this. I want to accomplish this. I want to conquer this. I want to be the best, freaking person out there. And that you're going to start working on yourself to get to achieve that. Aspirations means that you are longing for the future. You're fighting for it in a positive way. That's the person. The essence of an achiever. I want to achieve things. I want to accomplish things. There are certain people that winter break and they can literally hibernate for 2 weeks straight, drooling all over themselves as they schluff. And there's other people who say, if I sat home and did nothing for 2 weeks at any time in my life, I would lose my mind. I would lose my freaking mind. That's somebody who's an achiever. Somebody who says to himself, my time is valuable and productive. I got to go out and do something. Let's do a beach cleanup. Kidding. Turtles. Screw him. He seeks out a task because he's incapable of remaining idle. That's not like idle with an O-D. It's I-D-L-E. Not moving, stagnant. He can't. I can't. And by the way, this is for me as well. Do you know I have the biggest Yetzer Hara for travel, for luxury travel? I love it. I love it. And yet, with all the fancy 5-star hotels and first class and cruises, I cannot vacation for more than 4 days. I've done it before. I went on a week vacation and by day 3, I'm already starting to. I cannot do that. I cannot be out of life for that long doing nothing productive, but indulge in luxury. I can't. I can't. I'm not. There's some people who literally like I can't do it because I like then I want to die. How am I not? I need to get home and get back to. I need to get back on the grind. Right? It's a good recharge, whatever it is. That's I think someone who is okay with literally just sitting around and just be like, yeah, I'm good. Like gross, absolutely gross. Yeah, Mashiach.
You just said that like you have the biggest Yetzer Hara with going on vacations, but then you just said that like what you can't really actually like be there for more than like 4 days. So then wouldn't it not be like big Yetzer Hara for that?
I mean, when I say Yetzer Hara is like I really love like it's not a bad thing to take vacations. It's a very good thing. It's a healthy and it's a productive thing, and we have to see Hashem's world. And Hashem enjoys when he watches his kids have fun and engage and enjoy the world that Hashem created for him. So that's a very good thing. Well, I'm using the term Yetzer Hara, meaning that like I personally really, really love that type of stuff. Right. So like I have to make sure I'm doing it lishma. You know what I mean? Um, but it's like imagine you have a Yetzer Hara for like food. You like stuff your face. You want to binge eat. Okay, at a certain point you have to stop because I can't continue to eat anymore. I'm gonna throw up. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean you don't have the Yetzer Hara for it. It's just that at a certain point, right? I can't do it endlessly and forever. I cannot
Yeah.
sit in a bed and just like the biggest break I take in life is like post TGJ. I'll take a couple of days like in August to like just take a deep breath. You know what I mean? But like I'm just not built that way. To me, time is very valuable. And if I could be doing things that are productive and accomplishing things, like I want to be doing that. I don't want to be doing nothing. Which is again, I think whether that's natural or whether I mean it's not. I've worked for it because again in high school, like, you know, I was the kid drooling on himself. Like Itzy in the fancy pool. Exactly. By the way, I've used that example before.
Yeah.
Right. Hashem wants to see us in fancy pools having a good time. He does.
Flash.
He's happy when you're happy.
But not all day.
Why, Leia, why the face? I love this Kiddush.
Spoken like a true Sam girl.
It is 100% true. I was sitting there
Always the sun girl.
It's like it was so fluffy. It was aw.
I was
Avi's a
sitting on
girl.
that chaise lounge and I was watching Itzy in the pool and he was so happy and I worked hard to get him there, right? I work hard with this hobby to get the points to get on this rooftop plunge pool villa in St. Kitts. He's having so much fun and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, my God, Hashem, when you're like, does he want you to be happy? Of course. There's no deeper meaning to being in a pool. It's just being in a pool, but he's so happy. So yeah, of course, Hashem wants us to also to have, enjoy the world he created and be happy. Right?
Aw.
So that's how Hashem feels when we're
Can I go
having
to a rave?
That's
I'm just kidding.
if you're
I'm
having
just
fun.
kidding.
I'm saying if you to enjoy yourself in a kosher, I mean, this is what the Hasidim do. This is literally Oneg Shabbos. What is Oneg Shabbos? Oneg Shabbos is taking all the delicacies of the world, food and drink and song and dance and all that, and reveling in it, like Avad Shabbos. So as long as you're doing these things and there's purpose behind it, and you're doing it in conjunction with Hashem, then yes, Hashem loves that. Anyway, when circumstances are such that he has a few hours to spend, not to mention an entire day, without something to accomplish, he feels deeply dissatisfied with himself and regrets himself. Regards himself with disgust. You look at like you come back from TJ and you're like, I didn't take advantage of every moment there. You know, a lot of your advisors are like that, right? That when they're reflecting on themselves afterwards, they're like, oh my God, I could have done this and I could have had one more conversation and I could have been there, whatever. You know, like if you look back at yourself and you're like, wow, I wasted my time doing all that stuff. Like I feel a sense of disgust. For me, by the way, is like if I'll really get like sucked into like I'm watching like a video, whatever it is, like on YouTube, like a Israel advocacy video, and then like it's done and it goes to the next video, and I end up wasting 15 minutes looking at like murder mysteries or something like that, that came on, or like courtroom, exciting. And afterwards I feel a little bit like, ugh, I just like literally wasted 20 minutes. I could have been like sleeping or doing something like, you know what I mean? There's like that little hint of like regret. Work invigorates him and gives him pleasure. I know everybody's connected to this stuff because you guys are all very growth oriented, so it speaks your language. He is disconnected with simple tasks and superficially leaves his ambitious soul unfulfilled. He's a quick and happy and thorough worker, like a watercourse that, when interrupted midstream, flows even more furious in an effort to overcome the barrier in its way. I love that analogy, right? It's like when you put your arm into the water pushes faster because it's trying to get through your arm. Nothing's going to hold it back. So the conscientious person rises to the occasion when obstacles are placed in his path and is only strengthened in his resolve to continue to achieve and overcome. That's what lights him up. That's what gets a person excited. And I think that's, by the way, that's what we have to aspire to be. Now, we are going to get into it, but I'll mention it here. That says in the Gemara, Zrizim Makdim mitzvos. The way to perform the mitzvos is within a path of Zrizos. And yes, Zrizos is the antidote to being lazy. You want to not be lazy? Don't snooze. Don't snooze your alarm clock. When it goes off, get out of bed, right? When an opportunity arises and it shows itself, there is an opportunity to grab hold of something, do it right away. Don't wait on it, right? Because if you do, two things, you'll have lost the opportunity, but you'd also have taken a step back and conditioning yourself to be that Zrizis person. So we'll continue down in the quest of laziness and lethargic, but I appreciate you guys hanging in here. Any questions before I?
Don't end the recording. Sarah Haya, if you're listening, send a lollipop emoji. She said that she was listening. Wait, Zaya, listen. Last Chovas Hatalmidim, I said at the end, Sarah Haya, send the cupcake emoji if you're listening, and I called her and she said she's in the base listening to this share and taking notes, whatever. And then she hears me say cupcake, whatever, and she starts dying of laughter, and all her friends are like, "What's so funny?" And then they all come and she's like, "Listen, it's my friend, like whatever." Talking about cupcakes, and then now they were all laughing at me and my cupcakes, and
And
yeah,
they're
so
recording
now
now, they're recording now, and they're recording after recording.
Did she send the cupcake emoji or not?
she told me verbally cupcake emoji.
Fine.
So this week it's lollipop.
Yay. And with that,
And now
Gonna be ice cream next